All right, in this video, I want to talk about how I lost respect for Christianity, for my brothers and sisters in Christ, and I know they don't care. It means nothing to them anyway. But, just a testimony here, a witness that the things they'll say and do, showing that they don't actually pay attention, they don't actually think for themselves, and it's one of those things where it gets to the point where all you can do is just watch, and then you're like, okay, I have to watch them make their mistakes and learn. But this is where the loss of respect comes from, is that they aren't learning. They keep making the same mistake over and over and over, and they haven't learned from it. And talking about it and trying to reason with them goes nowhere. And it's just weird. It's weird because these people, I would say, are actually Christians, and even would say they're true Christians, because a lot of them will claim they are solely trusting in Jesus Christ for their salvation. They know they're saved because Jesus saved them. They exchanged lives with him at the cross, accepting his condemnation to death and hell from God, and accepting Jesus' sacrifice on their behalf to save them from what they deserve, and receiving Jesus' life and righteousness in exchange for their own, so that they are saved. And they will even preach this. Yet there seems to be some weird spiritual blindness or judgment or something going on, where they're just oblivious to things. Even when you show them very clearly, they'll dismiss it. And it's like, but you seem to love Jesus, who is the truth. So it seems as though you would love the truth when you hear it, but you all ignore it. Such as I was telling them all that the rapture's not going to happen, 9/23. How can you be so sure? You don't know the day they're out, so it could be. Well, one of the reasons why I know is because everybody's pointing at it and saying it's the day, or it very well might be the day. And it's like, no, that's one of the reasons why I would say it's not the day. And I've made videos talking about how it's not even the Feast of Trumpets. And I use all the stuff that these people who are claiming 9/23 is the day, what they taught about God's calendar using the sun, moon, and stars. We are not even at the Feast of Trumpets. We just entered into the month of Elul, the 6th month of the year. The Feast of Trumpets is at the beginning of the 7th month, Tishri. Because the sun and the new moon, what constellation were they in? Virgo. That's not when the Feast of Trumpets is. It's when the sun and the new moon are in the scales, the balances. That's the 7th month. And I've been saying this for almost a year, and nobody's paying attention. Nobody cares. Not to mention that I've been warning people of this, that these watchmen have told people that this is how the calendar works, and they've said that Israel has been a month early before and warned people about it. But this year, for some reason, there's some kind of blindness over everybody. Like this is something that was meant to happen for a reason, and it was going to happen. And why I have what is written here is because somebody's response was, unbelievers will mock anyway. And I thought this was just so dismissive. Imagine Paul, when he was telling the church, you shouldn't all seek to speak with tongues, but rather something like prophesying. Because unbelievers, what would they think if they came to a gathering of the church and everybody was speaking in tongues? They would think we're all mad, right? So you see, Paul cared about what the unbelievers thought of us in that sense, right? But he was saying, but if we were prophesying, the unbelievers, if they happened to come by and listen, they would be convicted of the truth. But a lot of you apparently would be like, tell Paul, well, they'll mock anyway, whatever. Where you're actually driving the unbelievers away by having everybody speak in tongues and just looking like a bunch of crazy people. You're driving the unbelievers away, and Paul's saying, hey, don't do that. And you're just like, unbelievers will mock anyway, Paul. Don't worry about it. And you're doing the same thing here with setting these dates. There's people, and it's on them, they actually sold their houses. Like, a lot of people were really into this to the point where they did that. Not that these watchmen were saying to do so, but this is what comes of this kind of stuff. You start pushing all this stuff to be like, hey, this looks like the day, and look at all this confirmation I'm seeing. Like, I asked God, is this true? And I keep seeing 9:23 as if this is some kind of evidence. And you start convincing people. So even though you're saying, hey, don't go sell the farm, you thoroughly convince some people. And if they truly believe that's when the rapture is going to happen, why wouldn't they just sell all they had and want to help other people with it before they go? That makes sense. But you don't think of that kind of thing. Like I've been telling them about people like my wife who are very much looking for the rapture and would be watching these people, hoping that the rapture would happen before she would go. And her hopes keep getting up, where she's on a roller coaster thinking, hey, this could be the time. And then it's not. And in her weakened condition, there's not so, she can't keep going through that. It might have actually made it a little bit worse. I'm not going to blame them for that, but I'm sure it didn't help. And tell them that, they don't care. None of them care. And guess what? They'll just keep doing it. They'll bring up another day. Well, this is the day. That's the day. And whatever, unbelievers will mock anyway. You're supposed to reach these unbelievers, not dismiss them. It's like all these people are just focused on themselves. It's disheartening because we are pilgrims here. We're just passing through. Jesus came into this world to save us. He did what he did for us, not for himself, for us. And all we can think about is, hey, let's get out of here and go home. Don't you have some lost family and friends, schoolmates, co-workers, people that you care about that aren't saved, and you're just like, whatever, see you later. Like, there's nothing in you that's like, I don't want to be a bad example, a bad influence to push them away from the gospel. I want to lead them to it. So if I have to focus on them up until the moment Jesus just comes and I'm not even paying attention, so what? Right? I'm trying to make sure that I'm being a good example and trying to reach these people, and then all of a sudden, JD, come up hither. Like, oh, okay, it's time to go. Not that I'm not watching, but if you're focused on reaching others, instead of just looking up in the sky and it not happening, the example to unbelievers is that, well, you don't care about them, you just care about yourself. And you're a bit crazy because you keep doing this and it's keep being wrong, and yet you're going to keep doing it. And I'm not one of those people who says that you don't know the day or the hour. I believe that has to do with the return of Jesus, not the rapture. Right? But in the end, it doesn't matter if you know when it's going to happen or not. It's going to happen. So why so much focus on when it's going to happen? And not the focus on reaching others. If it's going to happen, and you think it's going to happen even today, as you can see, I'm doing this on the 24th. And if you believe that this is the Feast of Trumpets, this is going to be when Israel, by the afternoon here, will be sounding the last bit of the trumpets, because it's a 2-day feast. The rapture just could happen today. So why not reach people? And some of them, that's what they were doing. They were leaving stuff behind, expecting to go. Bibles and making videos about what to expect when you're left behind. Like they were doing these things. And I seen some of them where they're all crying about it didn't happen. And these people who kept encouraging that this would be the day, they don't care about the aftermath of this. And I really liked that channel, Live by Faith Ministries, and I was just disappointed in them, how they were so supportive of that Joshua fella. Even though it should have been obvious how they're a false prophet right off the bat, but no, they still, like, hey, I don't know if we should judge that, because they wanted to believe it to be true. They wanted to believe that this is when the rapture was going to happen. And so maybe they'll say 9/23 next year, even though it won't line up on any certain date. It just so they can feel validated and be right. Yeah, I really like that channel, but they really went off the deep end. All these confirmations, I keep seeing 9/23, 9/23. I was even leaving on that channel. It's not even the Feast of Trumpets. They're a month early. I was leaving comments in my video about the stuff all over these people channels. Live by Faith Ministries, Barion, the other people who keep talking about the rapture and the 9/23 and all this stuff. And they just, ignored. I even had some people say, hey, I'm leaving your video up on their channel. Some of them said, well, it's not showing up. And I did it a couple times, and a couple times it didn't show up. So that might be one of the reasons why it wasn't seen. But some of them show up and just ignored. I even had weird responses. Like I would leave a comment saying, we're entering the month of Elul, not Tishri. The Feast of Trumpets at the beginning of Tishri, not Elul. It's when the sun and moon enter into the constellation of the scales, the balances. When you see the new moon there with the sun, that's the 7th month. And I'd have people saying stuff like, yeah, I'm so excited about the rapture. Like, they didn't even read the comment. Right? They would just respond like, yay, Maranatha. And I was like, are these bots? Or are they retarded? Like, what is going on here? There seems to be, there was some kind of, like, intentional plan for this that God allowed. And some people are saying, well, will this be something that triggers the falling away that the Bible warned about? Well, we'll have to wait and see on that. I'm not going to say it is, but I wouldn't be surprised. I imagine a lot of the people that I've been trying to reach since I believe in the rapture, and I'm always wearing a shirt that says Jesus is coming soon, they're going to think I believed 9/23 was the day, and I'm going to get mocked and scoffed for a day I didn't even say was going to be the rapture. right? And how am I going to reach these people who they've already got this idea of me that I was saying yesterday was going to be the rapture when I wasn't saying that, right? I have to sit there and explain to them, I wasn't saying yesterday would be the rapture. And they're just kind of like, whatever, they don't even care. They've already shut their mind off and they're closed off to the whole thing anyway, and they just, whatever. But, unbelievers will mock anyway, so who cares, right? I do. I want to make sure they get saved. I don't know why you don't. I don't know why you don't. I really don't. I'm ashamed of Christianity because of the way we are. We're just, yay, me. Well, yeah, you should be excited about Jesus returning, Jesus coming home, but when you really believe that's going to happen, you should be focusing on, okay, let's try to get as many people as we can to go with us by getting them the gospel, being a good example to them, and telling them, hey, that this is a day that we think is going to be the rapture. Well, especially since this has been going on for almost 10 years now, and this is not the first time they were saying 9/23 is the day. I remember years ago they were saying stuff about 9/23, not as hardcore as this year, but they were doing it, and you still got caught up in it. And you know why everybody got caught up in it? Not because it was true. It's the whole trick of the art of the deal. You believed it because you wanted to believe it. You wanted it to be true so bad that you believed it. Kind of like if I was saying, oh, Jesus delays his coming and he's going to come tomorrow and he's going to come get us tomorrow. This is just part of the testing and the falling away, that all the false Christians are going to fall away because they think he's not going to come, and then the next day, that's when he's going to come grab us, right? And some of you are actually going to take that and start using that to preach to others this nonsense, and people are going to believe that because they want to believe it, not because there's any reason to believe it. I just made it up off the top of my head. It was kind of like the other day. I almost made a video about it. But I looked at the time, and guess what time it was? Maybe we'll see if this triggers anything for anybody. It was 5:54. And you know what I thought? This is a 9/23 confirmation. Right? I started to try to think like these people. You'd be thinking, like, what are you talking about? That has nothing to do with it. Oh. Hey, wait a second. We have it divided here, right? So if we add the 5 and the 4 together, what do we get? 9. And if we split the 2 and the 5 up, what do we get? A 23. 2 and 3 make 5, right? So if we put the 5, 4 together and we split the 2 up, we get 9/23. I was like, look at that. It's a 9/23 confirmation. And in Europe, they say the day before the month. So there we go. It's confirmation. You see how we can play these games like that? And I saw this just on a random number like this that I happened to see the clock on. And I was like, hey, I could take that to mean 9/23 confirmation. And I don't even believe it. But you see, I try to get into the mindset of these people to understand the way they think and why they think what they think so I can better reach them. And I came up with the same silly nonsense they did. I didn't bring it up, but I bring it up now. Just to show you how you shouldn't get caught up into these things. Because you can take almost anything to be a confirmation. But you know what Jesus said? A wicked and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign. We are told to walk by faith, not by sight. And yeah, we see the signs of the times, but you're sitting there looking for signs and confirmations. I'm not going to say that God's not going to give any, but obviously Satan knows what's going on as well, and he's given some confirmations, right? We'll put the quotation around this, these confirmations, to mess with us. And it seems to be obvious, as it didn't happen. We're still here, right? And we're trying to warn you all of this, and you were just saying we're just trying to be Debbie Downers and we're trying to discourage everybody. No, because I'm telling you, hey, look for Jesus to come back, but Jesus is not going to come back when false prophets are saying this is when he's coming back so that they get to boast. Because that's exactly what's going to happen. We get raptured. These people are going to be like, see, I told you. And they're going to have this high and mighty kind of spirit to them, where the condition when we go up there is going to be that of humility. All right? But y'all don't seem to be paying attention. Y'all are not thinking, because they're the ones that told you about how God's calendar works, and none of you are actually applying it and using it. You're just like, hey, whatever, I'm just going to blindly trust these people. And even though they keep being wrong, and they've played this game before where they used Israel's days, and then they were like, oh, they're a month early, so they did it again the next month. They've done all these games, and they played it all in front of your face, and that you still flock to them. You're probably still going to flock to these people when they start telling you, oh, making up like an excuse why it was 9/23, and then they're going to give you some other day, and you're all just going to flock to it like flies on shit. And it's shameful. All right, because you're my family here, and we're all connected here. So we make each other look good or bad. It reminds me of when I was younger, where my dad was a strict guy. And he even told me when I was young, he's like, you're going to be respectful and on your best behavior because you represent me. And I'm not raising you to be some spoiled, selfish little brat. So if you're acting like that, you're going to get a whooping. All right? Because you're not just making a fool of yourself, you're making me look bad. So it made me think about that. Like, hey, the way I act out there, that's how the people are going to see my dad. All right? And sometimes that backfires, because sometimes you want people to think your dad's a jerk, right? Sometimes we're just little pricks sometimes when we're little. But we have to think about that. Because that not only applies to that, but it applies to also your siblings, right? Because if you were to act a certain way, they're going to think your brother, your sister, oh, they got the same attitude you do. Because, apple doesn't fall far from the tree kind of thing, right? They're all very much alike. So you make them look bad. So now while I'm out in the world, I'm getting mocked and scoffed and bullied, right, at the school because of you, and you don't care. Because you're a selfish little brat. So now when I want to try to reach people, where obviously you're failing to reach these people, but now when I want to do it, I can't do it because they see you and not me. Now there's a brick wall in the way that I don't know how to tear down. Right? And you don't seem to care that you're going to have to answer to God for that. Right? Just like if I acted like that and gave a bad example, I'm going to have to answer to my dad. I might just get a scolding. I might get a whooping. right? And you don't seem to think anything of it. Like, whatever. Like, none of you thinking, yeah, I get raptured. But none of you are thinking that, yeah, you get raptured. But guess what? We also go and get judged for our Christian lives. And we have to stand before the holy, holy, holy God. The pure one. And we have to give an account for our lives and everything we have ever said and ever done. And the effect it had on others. And the influence. And I'm not excited to do that. Right? I know I'm saved, but I know I'm not perfect. And I'm gonna get a scolding. Maybe even a whooping. And I deserve it. But even if it's just looking at the disappointment in his eyes and not being able to look at him, I don't want to deal with that. But a lot of you just don't seem to care. And no matter what people like me try to do, we can't seem to get you to care. And you're just going to keep on doing what you're doing. And you're just going to have to deal with the consequences of it. And we're trying to help you not deal with it. We're not your enemies here. You take us as one of the mockers and scoffers. Like we're against you. And that's not the case. I'm doing everything I can to try to keep you from disappointing yourself and disappointing others and misleading people, getting their hopes up, trying to talk sense to you. And you take this in some other way. Like, I have not said or done anything wrong here. Just trying to talk to my brothers and sisters in Christ and just let them know I'm disappointed. Not that I expect you to care, but for brothers and sisters, you should. But anyway, with all that being said, thank you for your time and attention. Take care. I'll see you in the next one, and may God bless you and yours.